You're listening to America's Diesel Podcast.
I saw a news story that the EPA is backing off enforcing emission stuff.
In what way?
Pull it up. It was on Diesel Army. Welcome to the podcast, people.
Yeah.
This week's podcast episode is brought to you by Fuel Bomb Diesel Additive, an additive designed for diesel enthusiasts, made by diesel enthusiasts. Ben, take it away.
Hell yeah, dude. So this is our in-house Fuel Bomb fuel additive for your diesel truck. Our biggest thing here is making sure that you can pretty much always have diesel additive on you all the time. You've got a lot of other additives out on the market that they have, anti-gel in there all the time. They have cetane in there all the time. They end up being big and bulky bottles. Our standard everyday diesel fuel additive is 1 ounce per 32 gallons, and that's its main job is to make sure that your fuel system stays lubricated and prevents the formation of algae. And it should also help you in colder climates too.
Should definitely help you in colder climates. Along with cleaning your fuel system and maintaining it, it'll also help you bump that cetane number up for a more efficient burn of your diesel fuel. And if cetane is just what you're after, there's the Fuel Bomb Hellfire, which is our straight 8+ cetane enhancer.
Yeah, and you guys asked, and we brought them back. We did go away from the bottles that didn't have the measuring little parts in there. We brought them back for you, so now you can measure out your 1 ounce per 32 gallons for the F-Bomb or 4 ounces per 32 gallons for the Hellfire.
Both these additives are available on our website, dieselpowerproducts.com. Now let's get back to that episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to America's Diesel Podcast. This is Ben, Tyler, and Corey. This is the intro. This is the end of the intro.
And this is a shaft.
This is a shaft. Don't get shafted. Hey, they did an article on 6 must-have truck accessories that every truck guy should carry. I want to see if I agree with that one. I'm going to open that for later. Let's see. EPA loosens grip on emissions delete enforcement. You want me to send it to you, Corey?
I got it up.
Okay. Whenever I mention that, I always want to say Jamie because of Joe Rogan, but obviously you're not Jamie, and I'm not Joe Rogan, so.
That's like the only flag. That's the top of their thing is their flag. That's like the only flag that's okay to burn.
From our man Randy. If you guys don't know, Randy was on the podcast previously. Looks like he wrote a pretty nice piece.
Good old Randall.
Randy Bowlig.
Blah.
Blah. Let's see. Let me see if we can get the cliff notes here.
Yeah.
To remove enforcement against aftermarket products from the NECI and return it to a standard priority is a recognition of our industry's commitment to emissions compliance.
We're back in business, people. No, I'm kidding.
Not
We're
really.
not.
Yeah. Emissions-based compliant products. Okay.
Over 500,000 violations they found. All in all.
The EPA found?
Yeah. It said that since the inception of this initiative in 2020, EPA resolved over 130 cases, which addressed over 539,000 violations. It's like, you didn't find the other 500, huh?
Yeah.
Resolved.
Yeah. Resolved 130. Dude's getting hit right now like super hard as Sinister.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're trying to lump in Corey with Sinister. Because they were selling Corey's tunes.
Yeah.
Well, they basically, anytime any new anything comes up, they try and lump Corey Willis into it.
Yeah. Well,
he's the loudest squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
And he's the most outspoken of all of it, with good reason.
It's already been resolved though, so it's like they can't really go after him again for the same thing. Wouldn't that be like double jeopardy? Like they can't do that?
Well, no, they use Corey's name as a buzzword or buzz button for Sinister.
Gotcha.
Because people may not have heard Sinister before, but if they're if it's a non-diesel person following this and they maybe haven't heard of Sinister, they have heard of Corey.
Yeah.
And then like, they're doing the same bad stuff as Corey did. Corey didn't do shit bad. Like I love you, Corey.
Yeah.
I love you too.
Yeah. Corey with a K.
Right. Fuck you then.
You're 2 different Corys and you're magnificent for 2 different reasons.
Yeah.
He's fighting the good fight and I respect everything he's doing. And it's going to be interesting.
You know how many times a day, like when I answer the phone, I'm like, this is Corey. And they're like, Corey Willis?
You should just say yeah.
I'm like, no, not that guy.
It is.
We used to always get I want to speak to Corey Williams. I'm having a problem in my truck.
Yeah.
I want to talk to him. He did my tunes. And I'm like,
It's like, sir, you don't know how the internet works.
yeah. First off,
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if you bought them from us
Yeah.
because we do sell them, but also different company, and his name is Corey Willis, and the company is PPEI. And also, not to say that, anybody's too good to do anything, but we're at a point right now where PPEI has probably about 15 employees. I'm sorry, but Corey didn't write your tune.
Yeah.
Corey wrote the tune that works on your truck, but like he has people there that look at your stuff and make sure.
Sorry to say that your truck with basic exhaust and
with a Spectre intake
and an intake doesn't negate custom tuning, bro. And you're getting the same tuning as your buddy with an S&B intake and a Flow Pro exhaust, and then your other buddy that has MBRP exhaust and an AFE intake. You're getting the same tuning.
Oh, you have a lift pump?
Same tuning. They actually assume you have a lift pump when they gave you that tuning.
Did your sales guy tell you not to run above, tune 2 when you didn't before you got a lift pump? Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why you probably
I want to say, even if you have like a drop-in turbo, like a modified VGT drop-in turbo, still got the same tuning.
More than likely.
More than likely.
You can ask them to retune it for you, and they'll get you some better parameters. But like for the most part,
if you just buy it off the website, it's the same tuning.
Pretty much.
Which this isn't a secret. We've been telling people this for years.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to get through.
Some guy, they would call in, hey, I just put an intake in my truck. I need to get my tunes.
Yeah, what are your mods? Got an intake.
Put an intake on there.
Lift pump.
I'm like,
sick.
There's that like pause, like,
And I'm waiting for the and.
Waiting for like the turbo or injectors or. That's it. Yeah.
But this isn't bashing people, okay? This is just how it is.
Yeah.
Like the best quote that's ever been out there as far as with diesel tuning was from Ryan Milliken.
Yes. The milkman himself.
Yeah. Tuning doesn't make power. Parts make power. Tuning just unlocks it. That's it.
Boom.
But we're not talking like, again, an intake or like things like that. Your parts, we're talking like hard engine parts, like turbos and injectors.
Turbos make power. Injectors make power. Cams make power.
Heads. Anyways. So your wife's car.
Yeah, we're going to deviate from a little bit the normal truck stuff we talk about a little bit here. But just it's kind of a good friend of mine.
Escape the truck stuff.
Yes.
For a moment,
yeah. Scape. But it's a good, in my opinion, it's kind of a good story as far as frame of mind and just kind of like working through stuff and maintenance. Yeah. So and Tyler hasn't heard like any of this yet. He just knows
I heard the basic stuff.
The very, very basic. Yeah. So my wife, her daily driver is a 2012 Ford Escape. It's the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder all-wheel drive. And for those of you wondering, 2012 is the last year before they changed to the current body style.
Very rare vehicle.
I wouldn't say it's actually rare, but this particular, like, I'm not trying to get FOMOCO guy on you real quick here.
You are a little bit.
But this particular configuration is not abundant. Tyler's nodding facetiously right now. Yeah. What I mean by that is like, it's you typically don't see this trim level like that. To put it,
you don't see these LTs very
true.
often.
This is gonna be sound such a fucking nerd.
It's a Ford Escape.
I know. But I get so particular about certain things, and it's like,
see, of all-wheel drive Ford Escape, that's normal up here.
Not the 4-cylinder. And not this trim package.
Oh, the trim package.
I just want you to know that this was custom ordered. Whoever bought this originally, it was custom ordered.
Who in their right mind?
Not me. Okay, it wasn't me.
I know.
Probably the same person who put in a drop-in bed liner.
Probably. By the way, I just saw one of those on the side of the road,
a drop
upside down in the median.
I bet you it'll survive there for the next 400 years.
I almost called you and said, "Hey, you should go grab this."
If it's fit, I'd run it. Free. Anyways, now that we've gotten the nostalgic factor away from my wife's fucking car here,
it's a Ford Escape.
It is a Ford Escape. But truth be told, for any of you guys out there that are looking for a little wifey mobile or anything like that, The older body style Ford Escapes, basically, I don't know when they started, but all the way to 2012, those are the ones that we all kind of know. Now they all kind of look like sports cars or kind of like a hatchback. But back when they actually looked like this kind of stupid, like the original small SUVs.
Did you say sports car?
I did. Compared to what they used to look like, they look like a sports car now.
I'm letting him go with it.
A Ford
Yeah,
Sport
definitely. Yeah, I would put that in the sports car category.
It's not very often that Corey and Tyler team up on me right now.
Except for bedliners and this.
But when they do, it's vicious.
Yeah.
And I bring it on.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often. I'm okay with it. This car has been really good to us. We got it with like 90,000 miles on it. It has like 130 on it now, so we don't put a lot of miles on it. But it's a great everyday driver for my wife. It's all-wheel drive. It's got good tires on it, so in the winter it's just point and shoot, gets good mileage.
Yeah.
I've had to replace a wheel bearing and tone rings and do services on it and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's been a very, very reliable car. My car situation has always fluctuated, but if there's one piece of advice I can give to potentially a young couple or a suitor trying to get his female's car taken care of, my best piece of advice for you is get her something a little bit nicer, a little bit newer, because the last thing you want to do is always have to work on her car or have something happen to her car and her try to describe it to you when she's on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Like, you buy the $1,500
Yeah, you get the clapped out
half-ton
one, yeah.
truck with 300,000 miles on it. You get her the 2015 with like 40,000 miles on it or something like that. Just that she's happy with and you don't have to worry about. But anyhow, so about almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago or so, I noticed that there was a little bit of moisture accumulating on the lower valance, like that stupid gray part on the bottom part of the front bumper.
Mhm.
And I could not pinpoint where it was coming from. I could see that there was something coming from about a certain level on the AC condenser, but the AC still worked perfectly and the car wasn't overheating. So I was like, everything's fine.
Yeah.
So I like sprayed down with some brake clean and it kind of got dirty around the same area again after a couple of months. And it never left an actual drop. It was just like what we would call sweating. It was just the tiniest bit.
Yeah.
And so I let it go. Honestly, I told my wife, I was like, hey, there's some sort of leak. You probably haven't even noticed it yet. I only see
Yeah, it
this
probably
thing.
doesn't even drip on the ground. It just
it literally doesn't.
evaporates before it.
Yeah.
Or
it
just
doesn't. And I was like, there's something going on with it. I'm going to do some more diagnosing. I'm going to try and figure it out. But like, just so you know, if like you drive it every day, if you hear a different noise, you got to tell me. Like, we're not on red alert right now, but it's one of those things where like, if it just happens to make a different noise, this is not the time for you to just kind of be like, oh yeah, I did
it's
that.
like a yellow alert.
Yeah, it did that 6 months ago. I didn't say anything because I didn't know if. No, I need to fucking do it now.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so it carried on. We finished out that summer, and throughout the winter, nothing more really happened with it. Started on last summer. It kind of kept dripping a little bit. Kept dripping, or kept. I could see it happening through the grill.
Yeah.
And finally, it's like it was towards the end of last summer, and I was like, "All right, I got to figure out what this is because it is getting slightly worse, but I need to figure out what it is because winter's coming up, and the last thing I want to do is deal with this when it's 10 degrees outside.
Right.
So I need to either force this problem to rear its head now, or I just need to be okay with it and kind of just make sure it happens. So I got a coolant pressure tester, and again, the car isn't overheating, nothing's wrong with it, and the AC still blows cold.
Yeah.
So I'm okay. And so I got a coolant pressure tester system, pressurized the coolant system, and it held. And when I say it held, like I did it, it held, I emptied it, and I did it. I basically tried it 2 or 3 times, and then I put pressure in it. And I went inside and had lunch, came back out, still holding the same amount of pressure. Didn't lose a pound.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. Well, the radiator's not the issue. We're not leaking coolant. Like, all right, but it's still on the condenser. It's still on the condenser in a very localized spot. I'm like, shit. And everything's still working fine on the car. So finally, I fully take off the entire front bumper. Grill bumper, everything, headlights stay on there. And I separate the AC condenser from the radiator, and I clean the living fuck out of everything. The lower cross member where everything's kind of creeping around, all of it. Top off all the fluids. If anything was slightly low, just topped it off. And I even put a pen mark on everything. I was like, something is very small is happening, and I have to catch it.
Yeah.
But I cleaned it. I probably wasted, when I say wasted, I mean like I shot like probably 6 cans of brake clean and everything, compressed air, simple green, all of it. And so first thing I did was, I repressurized the coolant system. Just, again, still nothing. Okay. Turn the car on. Nothing. Turn the AC on. It seemed like something was happening, but I couldn't be sure. It was like this tiniest little bubble.
Yeah.
I'm like, it can't be the AC though, because the AC still blows cold. If it's been going this time and there's a bubble on there, that means it leaks all the time. Why isn't it leaking out?
Yeah.
I'm like, it just doesn't jive with me. I'm not sure, but it doesn't, like, I can't lie. There's something coming out here. So like spray it with brake clean, hit it with air, still see stuff coming out. Like grab some soapy water and just kind of, throw it on there and it's still coming out. So something is coming out of the AC condenser, but there's so little fluid. I can't even figure out what kind it is. Like that's how slow it's coming out. It's like a mist. Yeah. Like I even I held a piece of paper up to try and catch it up, and it honestly looked dirty. Yeah. And I was like, well, it's probably, and because it was happening behind like one of like the support bands that are kind of like crimped on. Yeah. So like, well, there's rust back there and it's shooting past the rust and it's just getting dirty. Like I couldn't figure it out. Because again, everything is working fine. Right. So that was the end of last summer. And I went to my wife, and for those that don't know, she runs our budget. She's really good at it. I'm really good at handling other people's money. I am fucking really bad when it comes to my own. Yeah. I've gotten a lot better. Yeah. Okay. I'm a lot better than I used to be.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. But as far as like our day-to-day, our month-to-month stuff and stuff like that, we sit down usually every quarter, but especially at the beginning and end of every year to make plans and kind of keep our goals moving forward and stuff like that. Yeah. If you don't do that, I highly suggest you doing it. And for those of you that maybe don't do it and you're going to start doing it and you're combining your finances, this will lead to fights. You are going to
glove up, baby.
Yeah, you are going to fucking fight. Okay, yeah. You're going to get pissed. You're probably going to get more pissed at yourself than your counterpart, especially if you're like me. Like I was the one that had to be brought back in a check. My wife had to bring me back in a check, and at the end of it, I was so pissed at myself. I let myself get so out of control. But I highly recommend you do that early on, especially before you have kids. Just do it. Okay. Get an Excel sheet, do something, start making plans. Anyways, so I let her know, I'm like, hey, so something is leaking. I found it. I think it's the AC condenser. Like something's coming from that, but it's not enough. The AC still blows ice cold. We're good. And it's like the end of summer. And so we were kind of like going into the holidays and things are kind of tight. And I'm like, it's the AC condenser. Like it's basically fall is almost over like next week. Yeah. It's like, it's going to get cold and no one's going to care. And so,
I mean, summer is almost over.
Summer's over. And so our basic consensus between each other, and I gave her the best advice I could. I was like, hey, this is something, I don't do AC work. I can replace the condenser, but they're going to have to evacuate the system and like that. I'd rather just have a shop do it. Yeah. I already have a shop that I took my excursion to for AC work. Like I trust him. That's fine. And she's like, cool. It doesn't need to happen now. I'm like, honestly, no, it still works. Nothing's making any noises and it's going to get cold soon and you're not going to use it over winter. But once next summer comes around and you start using it again, I'm going to be honest, it's probably going to fail at the most inopportune time. It's probably going to fail right after a heat wave. Yeah. Or it's going to fail right before we take a trip or before you go back to work and I don't have an extra car.
Or it's just not going to work when you want it to, right when it starts getting hot.
Exactly. Yeah. And if we aren't able to do it at that time, like when this issue arises again, it's basically, it has to go in for service now. Yeah. There's no like, let it bleed out. Because at that point, we may fry a compressor, we may fry an evaporator, all this other kind of stuff, and it gets more and more expensive. Yeah. And if that's what you want to do, you need to be ready, because I'm giving you this advice now. I'm our mechanic. It's going to cost us more. Yeah. And if you want to run it into the ground like that, that's fine. But personally, I don't want to run your car into the ground. It's been really good to us. Let's not do that. Yeah. She's like, okay. So we let it ride all winter. And it went fine all summer until basically now. It's currently like August, the first, I know it's the end of August right now. It's like, it's August 23rd. They were talking about this. So my wife was getting ready to leave for her bachelorette, her sister's bachelorette party. And, I was like, hey, I've noticed that the wet spot's getting a little bit bigger. Have you I just want have you noticed? She's like, yeah, it's been making a weird noise. I'm like, God fucking damn it. Yeah. You're supposed to tell me this shit.
What we talked about.
And we've talked about this. Yeah. I gave you a refresher like 3 months ago. Like, if it makes a noise, you need to tell me. Because I'm not always in her car. Like,
Right, yeah.
And so she explains it to me, and I'm like, that does sound like AC stuff, but I'm not sure. Again, I'm not an AC expert, but I know that it's getting bigger. And I'm like, cool. Well, we're gonna handle this next week. Again, the AC is still ice cold. Ice fucking cold. And it's not like it doesn't even take a long time to cool down.
Yeah.
You turn it on, it's like within a minute. Ice cold. Working great. Still runs, drives, shifts, everything's fine.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, cool. She gets back from the bachelorette party and whatnot, and I'm like, all right, cool. I made an appointment at the same shop I take all my other stuff to. And I normally, when I drop stuff off there, I'm usually late to work because they open at 8.
Yeah.
But I do have a little bit of rapport with the guy there. It's actually like a random gas station shop. They just happen to do really good AC work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is great, and it's right next to my house.
Yeah.
But like I took my excursion to him, and I would usually sit there. I have like a quick 2-minute face-to-face, like, hey, just so you know, man, like, I'm not trying to like toot anything here, but like, I do all the work on this truck. I do everything else.
Yeah.
I don't do AC work.
Yeah.
But also I am like, this is what I've diagnosed on the AC system. Do your diagnosis. If you find something else, I trust you. Do whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
Like if there's something that looks like it might need to be replaced, do it. I'm a buy once, cry once. I'd rather spend $1,200 now than 6, 6, 6, and 7, 4, and 3, and 2, or whatever. It's more of a hassle for me to bring it to you than for me to do it later on and cheap out.
Right.
And he's like, I really appreciate that. I was like, cool. Like, just give me a call, let me know. But like, if you need approval for anything, like, if it's $1,000, call me. If it's anything under that, just fucking do it. Order parts. If it's a cheap or an expensive part, order the expensive one. Like, I do not fuck around when it comes to this kind of stuff. And like, they're usually when they hear that kind of stuff, like service writers or shop owners, like, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
like,
makes their job a lot easier.
Yeah, like I genuinely, like, please just do it. Like, you guys are the pros. Like, when it comes to AC work, I can't fucking do that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I drop it off, and I unfortunately wasn't able to have that face to face with him. But I tried to make sure that over the phone, like, he remembered, hey, I'm the guy that brought the excursion, this, and like, hey, I've diagnosed, like, I kind of diagnosed it a little bit here. Again, I'm not an AC expert, but I'm pretty sure it's leaking from the top right corner of the AC condenser. That's what I found. But go through your whole diagnosis thing. Like, just that's what I found, to give you guys a heads up. Okay, cool. It's literally like today. This is the 23rd. Today this happened. In fact, if you watched our live today on the 23rd, that's the phone call that came in.
Yeah.
So I called him at about 3:30 because we start filming at 4 usually. I'm like, hey, I'm just checking in. He's like, yeah, the radiator's leaking. And I'm like, no, it's not. He's like, did they pressure test? He's like, oh, you may have seen that the compressor, you may have thought the compressor had issues because there's stuff all over, but it's actually coolant leaking all over. I was like, did you pressure test it? Are you sure? He was like, yeah, I mean, that's what it's all over the cross member and everything. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I'll be honest, like, I pressure tested it and it held like 20 pounds for like over an hour. And to be honest, like, I took off the front bumper and separated the condenser from the, I found air, like bubbles coming out of the condenser, unless I forgot what a condenser.
This just happened? This conversation?
Not
today?
The second one happened just now, but the conversation
the first,
I'm going over right now, it happened at 3:30 today.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I didn't hear that one. I was like, wait, I did not hear him say that.
I was in my office when that happened. It was right before I came in here.
Gotcha.
And I was like, are you sure, man? Like, I was like, I'm not trying to like question you or anything. I'd be like, dude, I pressure tested that thing. And he's like, have you added anything to the AC system? I'm like, no, I haven't touched it. He's like, that's still blowing really cold. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
But there's air, there's something coming out of that corner up there. And it's like I separated everything. I sprayed it with like 6 cans of brake clean, simple green, compressed air, took the bumper off. All like, the radiator's fine. The coolant package is fine.
Yeah.
It's not overheating.
Yeah.
Something else is happening there. And you could kind of tell, like, I don't know, maybe if that like shook a chord with him, or he's kind of like, well, maybe we need to look at it again or something like that. And I wasn't trying to chew him out by any means.
No,
like,
but
again, like
when you just do something.
Yeah.
And that's like taking a car into a shop and you like just replace the spark plugs and them telling you that the spark plugs are bad. You're like, wait a second here. I literally just put spark plugs in this. How are you telling me that they're bad?
Yeah, like did I gap them wrong? Or are you telling me they're fouled? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But yeah, I said all that stuff and I was like, hey, if if that's the diagnosis, that's fine. I mean, I would like, can someone look at it again?
Yeah.
Honestly, like I have no problem paying a diagnostic fee if this is what you find, but if it is truly just a radiator,
Then I'll do it.
I'll replace the radiator. I'll still pay a diag fee. Like I'm not trying to like your hour $100 an hour diag fee or something like that. I'm happy to pay that. You guys have always been good to me. I'm not sure, but can someone can you make sure that's the diagnosis here? Because I don't want to go home and replace a freaking perfect, because I'm going to pressure test it again.
Yeah.
And if it pressure tests good, I'm sorry, but I've lost all faith in that shop.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and I feel bad because they're good people, but I feel like maybe
they could be good people, but bad diagnostics.
They may have just glanced over it or something.
Sure. Yeah.
Things happen.
Yeah.
And so he during our live session just now, half an hour ago or so, that's when he called. And on the phone, he's like, so I had the tech, re-look at it, and it's actually neither what you or I thought it was. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm glad we did this. Then he's like, I didn't know this, and I'm guessing you may not have either. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But the transmission cooler is integrated in with the AC condenser, and it's actually those top 3 rows up there.
Oh,
that's
fuck.
the transmission cooler. So it's
spitting tranny fluid.
And remember when I said I tried to get it and it looked rusty?
Yeah.
It's because it was dirty transmission fluid.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
And he's like, we can replace it. We can do this, this, and this. It'll be, I think he said after tax, $760 or something like that, because I do have to evacuate the AC system and all that stuff still, which I can do. And even then I was like, wow. Approved, whatever you need to do, that's fine. And I was like, are you guys going to do any sort of draining fuel on the transmission or anything like that? Or what do you have going on? He's like, honestly, just whatever fluid we lose out of the cooler is what we'll replace. I was like, hey, actually, somewhat recently did a transmission service on it. I have some nice Schaefer's fluid in there. Would you mind if I drop off some Schaefer's fluid? Can you use that instead? And he's like, oh, 100%. I didn't know, not very many people know about Schaefer's.
Yeah.
I was like, 100%. And
cool.
He's like, yeah. And again, I was like, approved.
I hate it when they do that shit, when they put coolers together like that. Yeah. I fucking hate that.
It would have.
I get why they do it.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a small package here, trying to get everything integrated. But the fact that if it is leaking, just transmit, honestly, if it was a different rig and it was my own, I'd be like, I'm fucking bypassing that bitch and gonna go to Napa and buy a fucking small transmission cooler, and I'm gonna reroute these hoses.
100%. I would, if you think about it, it's the top 2 rows of the AC condenser.
Yep.
I could have bought a power steering fluid cooler from a 7.3.
Yeah, and
just self-tapped it to the frame.
Yeah, done.
And done.
Yep.
With some hoses and hose clamps. Bam, done.
Yeah.
But and he was like, all the parts have a lifetime warranty, all this, that. He's like, I'm starting to, he's like, I kind of remember, I'm starting to, but I remember you now.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. I was like, if there's a cheap option, go with the expensive one. I'm approved. You can have my card number now, whatever you need. That's totally fine. He's like, no, we'll get it done, and we'll be able to get it done tomorrow for you.
Sweet.
I'm like, fuck yeah, man.
Fucking
and I get to go tell my wife about that, because I sent her, she asked me, have you talked to them yet? And I sent her a text back, and I was like, I literally, my text was like, I'm losing faith in this shop, and I'm fucking pissed. And that's a lot for me to say. It's because I don't take my cars to shops.
Okay,
I don't do that. This is a stress.
Here's the thing.
It's just
if you just said that first phone call, and doubted yourself and be like, yeah, okay, it is what it is, and they went and just replaced the fucking the radiator, you still have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
So listen, I know you like the shop and it's it's convenient and that sort of thing, but at the same time, it's kind of their fault a little bit. They fucking kind of misdiagnosed it originally, and the only reason why they double checked is because you questioned them. Yeah. Which it's kind of sad. How do you? It's kind of a bummer. It is kind of a bummer. I mean,
but the thing is, I can see why they would have. I don't think anybody pressure tested it, because they would have known immediately.
Why wouldn't you have?
Why wouldn't they have?
It would have taken 5 minutes to put a pressure gauge on there and test it.
I don't know why they maybe would have disregarded my, again, I've been a service writer. I've been on the other side. When someone says, hey, I need this fixed, my first question to them is do you want me to do this blindly for you? Or is this what you found and you want us to make sure that that's it and fix it? Because that's 2 very different things. If someone said, if I went in there and said, replace my condenser, do it now, and they said, okay,
that's what
we
I want
did
to pay
this,
for. Yeah.
And it's not it, that's on me. That's
100%, 100%.
And so like that's that's why I always will tell them, like, I will pay for the diagnostic fee even if I end up fixing myself.
100%.
I'll pay. Like, I don't want you to think I'm gonna like.
But
like
my question is like, what diagnosis did they do? How did they come to that conclusion that it was the radiator?
Mm-hmm.
What was your process that you would like that? Those are the questions that I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah.
Is how did you get to that? And then now we're here and it's not that.
Mm-hmm.
It's something totally different.
Yeah. And
because did you not look at it? And like, what? I would never like ask them that. Like, I wouldn't want to like get in a confrontation with them, especially if they have your vehicle torn apart and that sort of thing.
Right.
But at the same time, it just makes you wonder: did you actually diagnose that vehicle?
Yeah. Well, and that's again like they
could have had a new guy that they just hired that maybe it was like, oh, it must be this.
I can totally see why they would have thought it was the radiator, and I'm not trying to super defend the shop because I do like them.
Yeah.
But if they were to pop the hood and look at it and say like, because you can see like it's leaking across the cross member, it's like kind of soaking a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but if you weren't and just a regular Joe, they would have said, replace that and still have a problem.
Yeah.
And could have had a even bigger problem because we're talking the transmission cooler and the transmission fluid leaking out of the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
well, but then the leak would have still been there and I would have had,
I know, but who's paying for
under a normal guy, if it was just a normal, didn't ask those questions, they would have brought it back and said, it's still doing the same thing. That's impossible. Then
right. And that's where people lose their trust in automotive shops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a bummer, but
it is a bummer. But luckily, you have the wherewithal. Like, you've already tested that, you've already done those things, and have the ability to question them on that. Like that's just super frustrating to me.
It is, because
it's like I trust you with my vehicle. You're supposed to give me a good diagnosis. And again, I'm not trying to just like bash this place. There could have been a whole slew of situations that accumulated to make this situation happen, but at the same time, like, that's a misdiagnosis.
Yeah.
Like, me personally, if I was that shop owner, I would feel terrible if they came back to have the same problem and find something else that was actually going wrong the whole time. Like, I would feel obligated to be like, yeah, I guess I'll refund you, man. Like, yeah, we fucked up.
Or you would.
That's like you going to the doctor.
To cover the new next thing. Like, it's the same issue, but you diagnosed it wrong. Yeah,
you're just losing money at that point, but it's like you're also losing trust and you're also losing, your reputation.
Yeah.
So it's like coming in like, my fucking knee is hurting me, man. Doc, fix me up.
Yeah.
It's actually your ankle, man. We're gonna put a couple screws in and we're gonna.
It'll be good.
You'll be good. You'll be fine. It all heals up and you're like, fuck, my knee still fucking hurts. Yeah. Oh, it actually is your fucking knee. Ah, shit.
Damn.
like, come on, people. Come on.
But I personally, to play a little bit of, because I do really like those guys.
I know you do. I know you do.
And I know.
Can you ask them how they came to the conclusion that the radiator was bad?
I can tell
in a nice way.
I can probably tell you exactly what happened.
Let's hear it.
So this technician is probably looking at the vehicle, and I think it's only like a 3-man deal over there. There's like the owner of the portion of that shop and like the 2 techs or something like that.
Well, they should be fucking good techs then. There's only 3 of them.
But I'm sure he popped the hood and looked at it and said, what was the initial complaint? He looked at the RO and was like, possible, AC condenser issue. So he probably looked at it. There's definitely something's leaking for sure. He probably started the car, put a temperature probe, or like hit the AC on and was like, immediately AC's cold. He's like, this AC's working great. He probably put it, because he did mention the AC was blowing at like 44 degrees. He put a temp probe in there, was like, AC's blowing cold. He's like,
I'm going to be the dick. How do you look at an AC condenser? You see the AC lines that are very, very distinct.
Yeah.
Going into an AC cooler, and then you see transmission lines going into the top of
I missed that cooler. Too. Like, I didn't know they were integrated. Like,
but there's still lines there, right? It's probably a hard line with a quick disconnect fitting. Yeah. That's not an AC line. Like, that to me would be like an immediate like, oh wow, this is a split cooler. We've got something going on here.
I didn't get you either. So it
must be the radiator.
Like the
Sports cars, dude. Sports cars.
sports car.
This is a sports vehicle. This is a high performance vehicle.
If it had a spray and bed liner, they would have got it right away. But so like,
I'm
missed
being
it
a dick
too.
to be a dick.
But the portion that I was right on though is the unit that's
The
leaking.
unit that was leaking.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't
So
go
that
initially to
line,
radiator.
that line that you were testing, what was the connection?
What do you mean? What line I was testing?
You said you were getting like some spray on like a piece of paper.
It wasn't a line. It was like a pinhole in like the
Oh, the side. Okay,
like-
just the side. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
like
Because I was gonna talk shit about you in a second.
Yeah.
I'm
no,
sorry.
because I will be honest. Like even when that fluid sprayed out, like I never had a full on, for sure this is this feeling with it.
Yeah.
It was always like,
Well, you at least
it's gotta
knew
be
where it was coming.
I knew the
from.
object that was leaking.
Yeah, exactly.
I just
Exactly.
didn't know what fluid it was, and I'm kind of
Well, I was this whole time before you said it was the transmission. I was like, well, it's oil out of the AC. Like AC has
Yeah.
oil in it.
That was my
It's
thought.
usually
Maybe
it's
the
usually
compressor's
bright
going.
green.
Yeah.
It's like it's a
Exactly.
fluorescent green color, or a fluorescent color, which typically doesn't get brown
Yeah.
or that kind of color. So, but
because
it could have been dirt, whatever. Yeah.
and that's what tripped me up too, because it was like the condenser. It's so thin and so small they don't actually have like welded on caps. It's almost like a tube. That goes up and
just
down the side,
right.
And it was one of the like crimped on metal support brackets that go around it.
Mhm.
It's leaking behind it, so I can't actually see the fucking hole that's coming
Right.
out of. It's just seeping out of this crimped
And
on
then-
connection
Yeah.
on the like one of the side or poles of the condenser. And that's again, I didn't have. I should have done more research, but in my head, I'm like,
But,
it's an AC condenser. It's an AC condenser. It's a thing.
Well, at the same time, you narrowed it down to this particular cooler,
the thing.
not the radiator.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
But-
I'm just curious. You don't have to ask them.
Yeah.
I would just be curious on how they came to that conclusion. And I don't know how you can ask that without being portrayed as an ass to an auto shop.
Honestly,
or,
I think I already did, because I asked him. I was like, "Did he pressure test it?" And he didn't have an answer for me. I was like, "Because I did."
yeah,
And it was like it held like 20 or 22 pounds for like almost an hour.
yeah.
Like it's not
Yeah.
the coolant system.
No, I know. I know you question, but I'm just like, if you were to like get the tech
Mhm.
in a small room with two chairs
In a one-way mirror.
and just how did you come to the conclusion it was a radiator?
Yeah.
Tell me now, or I'll break your fingers one by one.
I can. Okay, so again, I bet you I know what he did. Put a temperature gauge on the temperature gauge. Said AC's blowing cold. Okay, it's not the AC. We just went through a massive heat spike, and this is a.
And someone's having complaints after a
Yeah,
massive heat
this
spike.
Is an
I
11-year-old.
get it, but
yeah.
these I know, but these are all
So
assumptions.
Yeah, he didn't check any of his.
These have
he
not
didn't
been
check and
verified.
Yeah.
So it's
If he had done a pressure test, he would have come to the same conclusion I did. Like, that is perfectly fine. What was the complaint again? Oh, the customer states that he, has done some diagnosing and states that the condenser's leaking. Well, you know what? I'm going to take more of a look at the
I'm going to
condenser.
take 10 minutes and look at this condenser
Yeah.
and then realize, wow, there's transmission lines going to this as well as AC lines.
Yeah. Or at least know that, like, okay, I thought it was the radiator. It's not the radiator. Block it out. Check done. Radiator's good.
Yeah.
So this object is leaking.
Well, there's a lot of shit that can be done in an hour if you're actually testing things.
True.
It takes 5 minutes to check a fucking radiator.
Yeah.
If there's a leak in a radiator, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
You're going to find a pressure drop. You're going to find something within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's 5 minutes of an hour. What are you doing for the other 55 minutes
Yeah.
of that hour diagnosis?
But
I'm sorry, I'm just talking shit.
very good.
I'm just-
At least they came to the right decision and they're in the right call, which I'm happy
I'm glad
for.
they did too. Yeah.
I'm glad they did too. I'm glad to just get it done with.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's basically it's the exact price almost that I told my wife.
Oh,
that,
perfect. Makes
like-
you look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this just goes to show people that it's okay to question your tech.
Mhm.
And I like automotive techs. They have a very hard job. They work on a lot of different vehicles with a lot of different systems. There's a lot of things to know and to understand. I get all that. But at the same time, this kind of stuff makes you. This is the reason why people question techs. And if you have the ability and the tools to be able to just run a couple preliminary tests, not even to figure out if there's something wrong, but again to figure out if there's something, if something's working right. If you can verify that something is working good, and then they come back and tell you that that thing that you verified is working good is not good, you have every right to question them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you should. You don't want to spend money you don't have to. But yeah, it's a little upsetting, honestly.
Yeah,
it's a little upsetting.
I have lost a little bit of faith, but at the same time,
But at least you are smart enough to be able to pre-test some of these things, to be able to kind of narrow it down, to give them more information than the average Joe. And be like, hey, I looked at this, I've looked at this, I think it's this. Those people should then take that information, focus on what you said, and verify it's working or not. And you could be wrong. You could very well be wrong. But at least they actually did the test to know, like, hey, I know you thought it was this. We tested this, this, and this, and it's actually working fine.
Mm-hmm.
What we did find, though, after we tested this, this, and this, that X is wrong.
Yeah, that would be the correct response. Everything you said right there.
Yeah.
So, well, at least it's getting fixed.
It's getting fixed.
And it's on budget.
It's getting fixed.
And it's going to get shapers. Get shapers put back in.
The Escape.
The Escape lives again.
She lives another day. Sports vehicle.
It's one of the most unlikely vehicles that I've come to.
Sport utility vehicle.
It is.
It's an SSUV, super sport utility vehicle.
It's actually considered a
SSXT.
Oh no, it's not. No, it's
EXT.
No, I think on title it's considered a truck.
It is not a truck.
There's no.
That is a
You're
small
not making
SUV.
this argument.
You're not making this. It is a small SUV.
I know, but there are some small SUVs.
It's closer to a crossover than it is a truck. I agree.
But if some of them, if you look at like the classifications on certain things, it's classified as a truck for some reason.
Well, you need to go to the DMV and have to fix that.
It's a sports
car.
truck.
It's closer to a car than it is a truck.
I agree. There was, what was the other one?
Like a Subaru is more of a truck than that thing is.
I think it actually was the what was that stupid panel? Is it the SSR? No, the panel thing from Chevy. HHR. That was classified as a truck.
I would classify that as homo.
Yeah. And even on their website, it's not classified as a truck, but as far as like as far as registration and stuff like that, when you look at it,
you go to the DMV and raise hell because that's bullshit. Because you're getting taxed for like a weight of a truck.
There's a lot of vehicles you would think don't get put on there like that, but they are.
Yeah,
it's weird.
All right, I've had enough of this.
Enough of this escape talk. So, long story short, don't ever be afraid to do your own diagnosing.
Yeah.
And
don't be afraid to question either.
Don't be afraid to question.
Especially if you know what you're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about, then don't question because you just sound like an idiot.
That's actually exactly what I was about to say. Because if I hadn't been able to say, like, well, it doesn't overheat, you'd be like, well, the coolant's still low. I'm like, okay, do the radiator then. But I came back literally with, like, it held 20 pounds for over an hour. Like, it's not that.
Yeah.
And for them to be like, oh, fuck.
It's like, sir, I work on 7.3s. I got this. Okay.
There's only 3 liquid systems on this vehicle that I have to deal with, okay? I got a lot more.
Yeah.
And like 40 times more fluid.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, so we got that taken care of. I will hopefully give you guys an update after they fix it and whatnot, because that's going to happen tomorrow. But
sick.
Yeah, it's going to wrap this episode up. Greatly appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and check us out at dieselpowerproducts.com.